The Shadows of Avalon? Shadows of Betrayal. Part 3. The days following the capture of Riverton were filled with activity. The rebels fortified their new stronghold, preparing for the inevitable retaliation from Lord Aemon. Scouts were sent out to monitor enemy movements, and messages were dispatched to other villages, urging them to join the rebellion. William, Eliza, and Thomas worked tirelessly, coordinating efforts and ensuring that Riverton remained secure. They knew that Aemon would not take this defeat lightly, and they needed to be ready for his response. One evening, as the leaders gathered to discuss their next moves, a scout arrived with urgent news. "There's been movement in the east," he reported. "Aemon's forces are regrouping, and it looks like they're preparing for an attack." William frowned. "But we also need to find out exactly what Aemon is planning. We can't afford to be caught off guard." Eliza nodded. "I'll take a team and scout the enemy's positions. We need to gather as much information as possible." As the meeting broke up, William couldn't shake the feeling that something was amiss. The enemy's movement seemed too coordinated, too precise. He suspected that there might be a traitor in their midst, someone feeding information to Aemon. That night, William walked the streets of Riverton, deep in thought. He knew that trust was vital in their fight, but he also knew that betrayal could come from unexpected places. He needed to find the traitor before they could do more damage. The next morning, Eliza and her team set out to scout the enemy's positions. They moved cautiously, staying hidden and avoiding patrols. As they approached Aemon's camp, Eliza's sharp eyes caught sight of a familiar figure speaking with one of Aemon's officers. Her heart sank as she recognized the traitor, Caleb, the villager who had guided them into Riverton. He was providing detailed information about the rebels' positions and plans, betraying his comrades for reasons unknown. Eliza's mind raced. She needed to get back to Riverton and warn William and the others, but she also needed to ensure that Caleb couldn't do any more harm. She signaled for her team to fall back, keeping a close watch on Caleb. As they returned to Riverton, Eliza's thoughts were a whirlwind of anger and betrayal. She couldn't understand why Caleb would turn against them after everything they had done for the village. But she knew that they had to act quickly to prevent further damage. Upon her return, Eliza immediately sought out William and Thomas. She recounted what she had seen, her voice filled with urgency. "Caleb is the traitor. He's been feeding information to Aemon. We need to confront him and find out what else he knows." William's expression darkened. "This is a serious blow. If Caleb has been working with Aemon, there's no telling how much damage he's already done. We need to act swiftly." The leaders called a meeting with the key members of the rebellion, explaining the situation and their plan to confront Caleb. They couldn't afford to let the betrayal go unchecked, but they also needed to be careful not to create a sense of panic among the villagers. As night fell, William, Eliza, and Thomas confronted Caleb in the town square. The villagers gathered around, sensing that something significant was happening. William's voice was calm but firm as he addressed the traitor. "Caleb, we trusted you. We welcomed you into our ranks, and you betrayed us. Why?" Caleb's face was a mask of fear and defiance. "I did what I had to do. Aemon promised me safety, protection for my family. I couldn't refuse." Eliza's eyes blazed with anger. "And what about the people of Riverton? The people who have suffered under Aemon's rule? Did you think about them when you betrayed us?" Caleb's shoulders sagged. "I thought I was protecting my own. I never wanted it to come to this." William's voice softened, but his resolve remained strong. "We understand fear, Caleb. We all have something to lose. But your actions have endangered us all. We can't allow betrayal to go unpunished." The crowd watched in silence as William made his decision. Caleb was to be imprisoned, his fate to be decided later. It was a harsh but necessary measure, a reminder that trust was fragile and that the rebellion could not afford to tolerate treachery. With Caleb secured, the rebels refocused on their preparations. The siege of Riverton had shown them both their strength and their vulnerabilities. They knew that the road ahead would be long and difficult, but they were more determined than ever to see their fight through to the end. As dawn broke, William stood before his comrades, his voice filled with determination. "We have faced betrayal and overcome it. We have seen victory and tasted its sweetness. But our fight is not over. We must remain vigilant, united, and strong. Together, we will reclaim Avalon, and we will see our dream of freedom realized." The rebels responded with a resounding cheer, their spirits undaunted. They were the heart of the resistance, the hope of Avalon, and they would fight to the last to see their land free from tyranny. The days following the skirmish at Birchwood Pass were tense yet productive for the rebels. They retreated to their hidden encampment deep in the Avalonian forests, nursing their wounds and planning their next moves. William sat with his commanders, Eliza, Thomas, and Maria, around a makeshift table strewn with maps and parchment. The mood was somber but determined. "We cannot afford to wait," William began, his voice grave. "Aemon's forces will regroup, and when they do, they will come for us with everything they have. We must be ready." Eliza nodded, her brow furrowed in thought. "We need more recruits, more supplies. The villages to the west are sympathetic to our cause. We should send emissaries to rally support." Thomas tapped a spot on the map. "And we should consider striking preemptively. Hit Aemon's supply lines, disrupt his reinforcements. Make it harder for him to gather his strength." Maria spoke up, her voice calm but resolute. "And we must prepare our medics. The wounded are recovering, but we need to be ready for the next battle. Every life saved is another fighter for our cause." William surveyed his team, his heart heavy with the weight of leadership. "Very well. Eliza, gather a team and head west. Thomas, prepare your scouts for sabotage missions. Maria, continue your work here. I'll coordinate our efforts and prepare our defenses." The leaders dispersed, each tasked with their part in the rebellion's strategy. William watched them go, his mind racing with plans and contingencies. The coming days would test them all, but they had no choice but to press forward. As the sun set over the forest, the camp bustled with activity. Blacksmiths hammered away at weapons and armor, while scouts returned with reports of enemy movements. Fires were lit, and the smell of cooking filled the air as the rebels prepared for the challenges ahead. Eliza and her team set out at first light, traversing rugged terrain and avoiding patrols. They moved swiftly and silently, their mission clear, to rally support from the villages to the west. Along the way, they encountered villagers weary of Aemon's rule but hesitant to join the rebellion. Eliza spoke with conviction, her words carrying the weight of their shared struggle. She recounted tales of Aemon's tyranny, of villages pillaged and families torn apart. Slowly but surely, hearts began to turn, and villagers pledged their allegiance to the rebellion. Meanwhile, Thomas and his scouts ventured deep into enemy territory. They used their knowledge of the land to strike at Aemon's supply convoys and disrupt his communication lines. Each successful mission weakened Aemon's hold and bolstered the rebels' resolve. Back at the encampment, Maria tended to the wounded with skill and compassion. Her makeshift infirmary buzzed with activity as she treated injuries and trained new medics. Every life saved was a victory, a testament to their determination to fight on. Days turned into weeks as the rebels prepared for the inevitable clash with Aemon's forces. They fortified their defenses, dug trenches, and laid traps. William oversaw it all, his mind constantly calculating their odds of success. One evening, a scout returned with troubling news. "Aemon's forces are on the move," he reported breathlessly. "They're gathering near Birchwood Pass, preparing for an assault." William's jaw clenched. "They're coming sooner than we expected. Prepare the defenses. Sound the alarm." The camp erupted into action as the rebels scrambled to their positions. Archers took to the trees, scouts manned the watchtowers, and warriors lined the barricades. Tension hung thick in the air, mingling with the scent of sweat and fear. As dawn broke, the first of Aemon's soldiers appeared on the horizon. They marched in disciplined formation, banners fluttering in the breeze. William surveyed the approaching army, his heart heavy but his resolve unshaken. "We stand together," he declared to his comrades. "For Avalon, for freedom." The battle began with a clash of steel and a storm of arrows. Aemon's forces pressed forward relentlessly, their numbers overwhelming. But the rebels fought with a ferocity born of desperation and determination. Eliza's archers rained arrows down upon the enemy, thinning their ranks with each volley. Thomas and his scouts harried their flanks, picking off stragglers and disrupting their formations. Maria's medics tended to the wounded, their skills keeping the fighters on their feet. Hours passed in a blur of chaos and carnage. The forest echoed with the cries of the fallen and the clash of weapons. The rebels fought with everything they had, their spirits buoyed by the knowledge that they fought not just for themselves, but for the future of Avalon. As the sun reached its zenith, the tide of battle began to turn. Aemon's forces faltered under the relentless assault, their lines breaking and morale crumbling. The rebels seized the opportunity, pressing their advantage and driving the enemy back. By nightfall, Aemon's army had retreated, battered and demoralized. The rebels stood victorious, their camp littered with the spoils of battle. William surveyed the scene, pride swelling in his chest. "We have won today," he announced to his weary but triumphant comrades. "But the fight is far from over. Aemon will regroup, and he will come again. We must be ready." The rebels cheered, their voices ringing through the forest. They had faced the gathering storm and emerged stronger for it. But they knew that greater challenges lay ahead, and they were prepared to meet them head-on. The flames of rebellion burned brightly in their hearts, fueled by the hope of a better tomorrow and the belief that justice would prevail. Together, they would face whatever challenges lay ahead, united in their quest to free Avalon from the clutches of tyranny. As they tended to their wounded and counted their losses, the flames of rebellion burned brighter than ever in their hearts. They knew that more challenges lay ahead, more sacrifices to be made. But they also knew that they had each other, and that together, they would see their struggle through to the end. Like, subscribe and share for more interesting stories.